everyone. Welcome. I have a tale for you. The tale of the last story. The last story. Well, what's there to say first, but its original launch casing was awesome. It looked like a book with the game and an art book inside. Very nice. But we're here to actually talk about the game this time, not show off the nice display box and everything. So, I'm going to be talking a lot about the criticism of the last story, because I really enjoyed this game. It was awesome. Certainly not the greatest game in the universe by far, but it certainly is an awesome game. So first, I would really like to address the criticism the game has received. And a little of it, and some of it, is justified, while some, I think, just kind of miss the point. So, the biggest and fairest criticism I see in the game is the fact that the world isn't big and open. It's hub-styled, with the town basically acting as a hub and you going to places, or a chain of places for events and story. While this is technically true, it doesn't feel so confining, but yes, it is true that the world isn't big, open, or anything. It certainly is incredibly small when, of course, you compare it to Xenoblade on the Wii, which I have the other cover, obviously, which doesn't have the title on them. Actually, that would be nice to have Xenoblade right there. I mean, you got that nice little area there you could have put it on, but Xenoblade Chronicles is certainly a huge open-ended world, while the last story is confined to a more small world. But that shouldn't be necessarily a reason to condemn the game. I mean, sure, it's a small world, but when has that ever condemned? Like, there were people from last year, it's like, this game's awful! It's not like this giant sprawling MMO world! Like, I mean, last time I remember, there were tons of RPGs in this huge universe. You ever play Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest? I don't remember all those having huge worlds. I mean, some of them do, but let's look at Tactics. This is this little global map where you have dots, and that game's loved like hell. But my point is that while it's true, I don't see it as something that should be this, like, I mean, there's several people who put this game on their worst of 2012. Worst. Worst of 2012? What? I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to blaspheme people's opinions, but you can't tell me that out of, hundreds of games that come out every year, that this is anywhere close to the top 12. Maybe top 12 you played if you only buy 10 games a year, but damn. But now, there is a small, I'm not sure what causes it, there is something wrong with the camera, and it seemed that I experienced it when I was in cover, and then went out of cover at several instances. And I'm not sure what truly makes it happen. It basically makes the camera not respond to the analog stick temporarily. And that does happen. That is the only control issue I ever really had. Aside from that, everything else is really nice about the game. It's an action-oriented, real-time RPG. It does not take levels very seriously or gear very seriously. If you're looking for something you want, this is very casual put. If you're looking for some hardcore wizardry, you're in the wrong place. The gear is not a huge influence in the game, and leveling is not a huge thing. Grinding, do you hate grinding? That's what I actually also find funny. You get all these people like, oh, grind, I hate this game. Oh, grinding, I hate this game. This game, grinding is non-existent. Like, aside from the shit end, like the absolute end of this game, I never really did any real grinding. Okay, technically I did a little in the beginning, but that's because I was practicing the battle system and it just ended up finding out the leveling system just goes really fast. But I mean, really, grinding is not necessary in this game. You really have a very nice, natural flow of leveling up in the last story. It's very nice. It's very fluent. Now, of course, you're probably like, well, if it's a hack and slash real-time RPG thing, isn't it just kind of mindless? It's kind of interesting, because I actually find the strongest point in the game, in my opinion, is something I've seen no one ever talk about. The battles. I never see anyone congratulate the game for the unique battles. Okay, let's put it this way. Let's say, how many battles in Final Fantasy IV would you say are very unique? While there are unique scenarios in Final Fantasy IV, admittedly, most battles play out a lot of the same, you know? Aside from certain boss fights, a lot of normal monsters don't have tons of unique techniques you need to do to survive. There are many boss fights and unique encounters in the last story that require you to do things, and that are sometimes never reused in the game. While a few of them are, not many of them are. Many instances in the game are pretty much unique to some of the instances. And I have to really say, I have to reward the game for being refreshing in combat. Like, keeping it interesting, you know? I don't really want to spoil any of the particular fights, but really a lot of the fights feel unique and contained in their own area, as opposed to, well, let's copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, and let's copy and paste 3 more times for the end, just in case they still don't know how to fucking do this. I mean, really, I've seen nobody compliment the last story in that way. I keep seeing these, I mean, like, no, it's not perfect. It's by far not perfect. It's not on my top 10 RPGs of forever list. But it's certainly an enjoyable experience. It's a very lighthearted and very emotional game. Anyone who knows the original creator of Final Fantasy knows that usually when he creates a game, he like invokes a thought into it. Like Final Fantasy VII was basically invoked feelings of his mother. If you don't know, he lost his mother a little before Final Fantasy VII, and he put a lot of his emotional feelings of that in 7. And he does that for a lot. Final Fantasy IX was invoked feelings of the franchise itself. But, of course, you know, he would eventually leave the Squaresoft, Enix, and that, and start his new company at Mistwalkers, which is, of course, you know, what the last story is by. Mistwalkers and the famed creator of Final Fantasy. He invoked feelings of emotion. Like, he basically went on to say that the game was how he would emotionally create a game if it was to be his last. And the game does that. And that has brought in a criticism. And these are just fair, these aren't unfair criticisms here. The game does have a, what's the term I'm looking for? Basically all the characters are, how am I trying to phrase this? I don't really want to say generic. I mean, they do have, you know, you have the really nice guy who's really overzealous and pretty bonked in the head when it comes to certain things. You got the courageous guy, you got the loner, you got the nature founder, you got the tough gal and shit, and you got the handsome, pretty boy, hit on every woman type personality. I mean, it's not exactly unique personalities, which is obviously something really hard to pull off these days without being very tabooish about it. But they're all, I loved the Thailand cast. Villains, good guys, even Horus. I even liked Horus. I have to award all the British actors that did the roles for the last story. They were all very nice. Especially the general. I really liked his voice actor. But I really like all the voice actors. They're all well done voice acting and everything. And they really convey the emotions. This kind of story with its emotions and that, it would collapse with horrible acting. Like, I could still appreciate it, but I could see how it would ruin the game for some people. And they all did it very spot on, so that enhances the game so much more. But it's an emotional game with human emotions in that, you know? It has a few interesting twists, but overall I would say it's not exactly the giant plot twist of the century. And if you're not too unfamiliar with a lot of stories, you can probably see the twist in the end. But I still enjoyed the game immensely. Like, I mean, some of these criticisms, I said the same thing about Xenoblade. Like, all the characters or stocked personalities, but yet they were so lovable. But, I mean, like, the last story, Xenoblade and Neo are some of the most modern games that I really liked the casts for. Like, they weren't, even if they were stocked, like, they weren't these personalities that were just fucking stupid and shit. They were all lovable, great. They invoked feelings properly. Now, like I said, with the combat, it's all real time in that. You have one thing that pauses everything, where you can give commands to your party. And that's actually another thing that's really awesome about the last story. And again, I don't see people complimenting. People just bitching and whining. It's not a giant world. Like, I see these people saying the game's awful because it's just not this giant-ass world. But, you know, I didn't see people saying that when Final Fantasy Crisis Core came out. I see everyone just like, oh, the game's awesome. But then again, maybe I was just looking at the wrong people. But anyway, getting on back. Basically, you have a big party. You can have 6 party members. Actually, it's very awesome combat with all these characters. Obviously, you don't manually control all of them, which to some people that might have a little, you know, that might make them think a little Final Fantasy 13-ish. But no threat, though. You have ways of controlling your characters and giving commands and pulling off large combinations of super moves. Now, admittedly, the game's combat is very streamlined. Like, you know, your mages don't have 5 million spells and shit. They basically have 2 spells, 1 super move they move it, 1 at certain times, and they upgrade. And all spells have a secondary use, which is how one of the interesting mechanics I like in the game. Okay, basically Zael is like an activation trigger. He's like the button to a bomb for pretty much your entire party. He is the tank with the outsider power that allows him to gather, which brings aggro to him so he can tank or distract enemies away from his allies. And his allies, pretty much most of his allies are mages, though there are melee users that have special techniques too. But once magic is casted, entering the area it was casted in will enhance the weapon with the element, and Zael can use another of his abilities of breaking the spell, which has secondary effects. Some silence or weaken the armor, or cause positive effects, like breaking a healing circle gives health to your entire party in that. If interaction between your party members to make better strategies. It's really interesting in my opinion. And Zael gets he gets a special acceleration move later on that allows him to basically make everyone go really fast temporarily. And there are also a few special like I said, how a lot of fights are very unique. There are a few special moments where there was a combat-related thing that only happens in that fight. It's not like some, like, later on, oh, I could summon a great, awesome thing for the rest of the game, and then just spam it over and over and over again. I think it has a very nice idea of balance, really, and keeping all the fights really refreshing and not abusing copy and paste techniques too much. Though no lying, there is a little copy and paste. Like one of the early bosses reappears in another chapter 2 times, but because he's weaker, he's pretty much easier to dispatch than when you first encounter him and that. But yeah, really, the game is really about the experience, and it's another relaxing game. There isn't a lot of stressful moments in it. And there's side content that in my Let's Play I didn't do. There's some, I did a little of it, but there are parts that are side content and are skippable. I think the game is delightful. Now, I would say it's a little short, though, as a little criticism from me. Like, we're not like, this is perfect. It is a bit short. Like I said, there is a small problem with the camera for some reason. I experienced it from covering and getting out of cover, like I said. The game, if you were really quick about shit, and you could really be very good at the final boss, you could probably get it under 30 hours. But I was having trouble with the very final form of the boss, and I had to grind a bit. And, the end game is awesome, to be honest. Like, probably some of the most memorable fights are pretty much most of the end boss fights for the game. Like, they're all awesome. Then the final boss might be a little unoriginal-ish. Most of the fights before him were very interesting. His is interesting, too. But, what else can we go? There is upgrading your gear in that, but like I said, I did very minimal upgrading in that. Like, there are people who got armor sets that are rare and stuff in the game, and yeah, you can do that. Really, I did not find that I needed to upgrade stuff incredibly much, beyond what you basically just find as you progress the game. Though, obviously, you can. You can. This is a very relaxing game for the most part. I'd say it isn't incredibly strategic, but at the same time, it has a lot of interesting ideas that keep you involved. Because unlike 13, well, 13 isn't a game where you just mash X. Basically, in 13, you're kind of a back coach where you're like, okay, I need you to be a hero, you need to be a mage, you need to be a melee, okay, everyone melee, oh, everyone mages, everyone healers. You're in charge of flipping everyone in the commands. You're like the coach yelling at the sidelines like, yo, heal, no, magic. And the last story, I think it's very important that they didn't do that. You feel like you're in control of many of the actions. While your companions can't act without you, you can use the command feature, like I said, to make them do things you need. And usually they focus on continuing that. So if you want them to swap from casting an attack spell and want them to start casting healing spells, you can do that, and they'll usually focus on keeping a heal spell cast down. Ooh. So you have a lot of control with your party, and like I said, you're like a trigger switch for a lot of actions and things and effects. And I really like the intuitive way all the party members work together with Zale. Like, he's just a link that continuously causes new effects to happen. But really, I'd say the shining moments of the game is that they keep most of the battles pretty refreshing and unique, and don't reuse too much. I mean, basically, they're all generic enemies, but I just really feel like they planned out unique scenarios and ways to get around or pull enemies and unique ways of damaging enemies in certain instances. I really appreciate that nice touch to keep things unique and not boring and drawn out. Basically what I'm saying is, this ain't Dynasty Warriors where you're running in a giant room just 500 people in the air. It's very unique in how it... Be honest, I don't know a lot of RPGs that keep a lot of battles, even just normal battles, from being completely generic. Like, the chapter with Horus at the mansion was a very interesting instance. Not only was the boss interesting because the whole entire area was pretty much the battlefield for it, but it was the interesting aspect of what could happen to your party members during the fights that took place in the mansion. And see, it's just those nice touches of making it unique. And then it's like, not used anywhere else in the game, making that instance unique and feel special instead of spammed in copy and paste. And I think a lot of people just overlooked a lot of the interesting and nice touches like that. The game is not perfect. The game is not incredibly hard. And this is not a game if you're looking for a single-player-ish, MMO-ish kind of experience like Xenoblade Chronicles offered, where you had this giant open world and an MMO-like kind of environment and tons of hard monsters and notorious monster-like creatures roaming the world that have no significance on the story now. It's a very story-centric, combat-centric, and I'd hate to say it, because admittedly I would be a liar if I said I don't usually like it when somebody says it, but to be honest, it's streamlined in a very nice way in my opinion. Like, it takes the nicer aspects in the story generation of RPGs and makes it enjoyable without a lot of filler, you could say. Like, there isn't tons of meaningless filler. I like to think that it stays on track with the story. There are side things you can do, but you don't necessarily have to do them, obviously. I feel like it's very focused on its goal with the storyline, really, and not a giant enthralling world. And don't get me wrong, a giant enthralling world is fun. But if done right, you can have a small world. After all, many old RPGs don't have huge worlds. While Final Fantasy V took place on 3 fucking planets, basically, which made its entire gameplay experience huge, there are other games that just have such small worlds. I mean, look at Dragon Quest I, for hell's sake. That world is so small. If it wasn't for the intense grind fill in that game, that would be so short. Like, I hear speedruns for the Game Boy Color version, like 8-hour speedrun of Dragon Quest Warrior 1 on the Game Boy Color. But, I think I talked about most of it. There were a few aspects of the story. The twist didn't bother me as much. There were a few things, about the story. And yeah, I think this is probably the best time. Basically, from here on, I highly recommend this. Okay. I highly recommend this game. If you got a Wii or Wii U or a way to play it, I mean, it's available in every country. It's in Europe, it's in Asian territory, it's in America. There's basically no real reason to not be able to get it. So, if you have a Wii, you're looking for a fun RPG, very, story-focused and unique battle situations, I would go for it. If you're looking for an incredibly hard RPG, very difficult, time-consuming, very gear-oriented, this game's not for you. It's certainly not very gear-oriented. That is incredibly for sure. It's probably one of the least gear-oriented RPGs I've played lately, and to be honest, usually that bothers me, to be honest, but to be honest, I really enjoyed the game a lot. So anyway, this part I'm going to talk about story. I've been trying to keep story spoilers at the end So basically, if you don't want to hear them, you know, you can. That's the end of the video for you. If you want to keep watching for those, then we can. We're gonna go talk about the story now. So story. So basically, a bunch of more scenarios. Most of you've had your homes and shit destroyed by a war that took place in the past. And you're a bunch of more stories for hire. So you get hired to go do a mission on this island. You go here, and the main character gets like embodied by some ancient power of the island called the Outsider. So basically, the ruler Count Ogden wants to use Zale to basically become the leader of the entire world, because it's like, I have God's hand on my side now. Ha ha! But anyway, then basically a lot of conspiracy shit happens, some people die and stuff, and a giant war takes place. And basically it's humans and Guac. Each one has a power of the Outsider. Basically later in the game you find out the Outsider is a kind of meteorite thing that came from space that was called to be used for war, the very ancient war, and they ended it. But apparently the seed thing, the meteorite thing it is absorbing the energy of the land, and it's been killing it. So the Ogden ancestors tore it apart to slow down the process so they could figure out some kind of ritual or something to send it back up. And that brings up to where the game is. Basically, the Guac found the other half, and it becomes a giant war for control of the Outsider. And people die, countries conflict and shit. And, yeah, and I'm giving a really fast overview. I'm not really touching up on a lot of the side stuff here. But, basically, Zale wants to obviously get rid of the Outsider so it'll stop destroying the planet, while the leader of the Guac wants the power of the Outsider to basically just remake everything in his image and thought and everything and that. Basically, the final fight's going into Lazarus Island, where the Lazarus Outsider is, because the Guac King needs it to obviously get both. You go through all his minions, fight him, and he tears off his arm that has the Outsider's power of his half, and he tells it to go get the other Outsider and revive him. And here's the plot twist that I said that seems kind of obvious to a certain point if you're very, if you see a lot of these kind of stories. Your best friend Dagwin, who is basically the leader of your mercenary group, he basically planned and orchestrated this all, though it didn't go all to plan. He planned on getting the power of the Outsider, but you did, so, you know, he kind of had to adjust his plan and stuff. And basically, he takes the power of the Guac's Outsider, and then he goes to go get the Outsider of the island that you're on. And you go kick his ass, all three his forms, kill him, and you get a happy ending. You send the Outsider back to space, and yeah. Now, the thing that bothered me the most in the story is the Guardian, who you meet at the very beginning of the game, basically, after you get out of the first little beginner area. It's a blue, ghostly-like tiger. It's never explained until way near the end that it is the Guardian of Lazarus Island, and it barely has a role in the game. It's so out of nowhere. It's really played almost no role, really. It's just like, oh, that thing? Oh, you met that at the beginning of the game? Oh, that's a Guardian. It's like, what? Really? It's like, didn't you know that? No. Be honest, that's pretty much the only thing that really bothered me. Yeah, the plot twist, I admit. Pretty much when, Dagwin and Zale went to find out, to check in Drawl's room, and they found a contract between him and the Guac, and then later he found out he forged it. That's pretty much what I got. Yeah, I'm seeing it. Some people say they see it before that, so that's mainly where I just finally broke down. I was a little teeny suspicious before that, but that's basically where I'm like, yeah. And then, you know, just the continuous, like, leave all the douchebaggery to me, you just play your role and stuff. But I really like it a lot. And the music, of course. Actually, I haven't really talked about the music. That's actually stupid. Damn it, why didn't I talk about the music before the story? The music, of course, is by the original composer of pretty much most of the Final Fantasy titles. And, you know, he always gets it good. The music is very well done. Oddly enough, I really like the song that plays when you're fighting Drow on the Grak ship. That song I really like. I didn't like the final boss theme as much. That was kind of weird, actually. I liked the songs that were also playing between the Grak twin mages, especially the second one, which really had a very techno feel. It really reminded me of Final Fantasy VII, like I said in my Let's Play. I don't know what song it reminds me of, though. I need to really, like, re-listen to all the tracks. There's something in there that reminds me of a song in 7. Maybe somebody can tell me that. Maybe somebody who actually remembers all the tracks or something. But overall, again, I highly recommend The Last Story if you have access to a Wii, a Nintendo Wii U. I mean, I don't see why it got so much hatred in America. It's really liked in Europe and in Japan. Like, Fitzmuth, I can't say the name of it. That one reviewer, and basically the only real reviewer in Japan, Famutz, I can't say them. They gave it a 38, if I remember correctly, and it was very well received in Europe. In America, it got basically average to belowish, with only some high up plays here and there. It was in Time Magazine's top 5 of the year, or top 10 of the year or something. That's probably the most pristine thing I've seen America give it. Which I really think is a shame. I really think The Last Story deserves a lot of attention. So, if you've been watching a lot of negative reviews and that, well, I'm not saying that, like, you know, it ain't a big world. There was a small problem with the camera, like I said. And I'm not going to say it's perfect. It's simple. It's not very gear-oriented. The levels do come by fast, so... And there isn't a lot of grinding, so if you don't like grinding, then that's awesome. If you do like grinding, then, well, that might bother you. But I really liked it. It's very awesome. I highly recommend you check out The Last Story if you haven't yet. It deserves more attention than it's getting. And so is Xseed. Xseed is very awesome to give us The Last Story. And they're soon going to give us Pandora's Tower, which I also highly recommend. And I'm sure I'll love that game, because I've been loving the concept, the gameplay, and the bizarre story. Everyone knows me. I love bizarre, unique stories. And, you know, I'm really actually planning on doing like a big purchase. I'm trying to save some money, and I want to do a big purchase for a bunch of Xseed stuff. New. Like, I might even buy some Vita stuff. Because they deserve, I mean, we gamers, you know, we want unique games to come to America. I mean, we might all like different games. Some people enjoy bizarre games and first-person shooters in here, and I'm not really trying to bash anything in Pacific, but we gotta support games. We gotta show them that we want more unique, good games. And I want to do that. I want to show Xseed that I'm incredibly thankful they're giving us physical versions of these games. And while I was disappointed that a lot of the Vita titles were being digital, I do plan on trying to buy a bunch of physical games from Xseed brand new as a thank you for bringing us The Last Story and Pandora's Tower. I'm incredibly thankful for them to listen to fans of Japanese RPGs, or RPGs in general. Okay. But anyway, I think I'll leave that as the note. So, if you have any other questions about The Last Story, or if you want to give your own 2 cents of what you thought about it, or anything at all. I mean, you liked it, you hated it, you know. I mean, it's an opinion. There's nothing wrong with hating it. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone has an opinion. I just don't like seeing that. I really feel the game tried to really focus on certain elements, and I really didn't like how a lot of people just didn't appreciate that. But anyway, that's my thoughts on the last story. I really enjoyed it. I hope you check it out. And I hope you look forward to Pandora's Tower, because I sure am. So anyway, next time, well, I'm not 100% sure what I'm doing next time. I did say I did make a reference at the end of my last story, Let's Play, of what I might do, but I'm not 100% sure about that quite yet. But overall, I'm trying to focus on what I'm currently doing on Let's Play wise. So anyway, I'll see you next time, everyone, because I am Blabbermouth.